Thank you, Emery. It's so nice to be with all of you and to get to share my first book. And of course, thank you to the Center for Academic Innovation and the Gender and Women's Studies program, and for being here in April in the spring semester. It's hard to it's hard to carve out an hour. I am gloriously on sabbatical this semester, so the semester that's going by slowly for you is going by for me really quickly. But I appreciate you finding some time in an April afternoon. So I'm going to, as Anne-Marie said, I'm going to be reading from my book. It's called E equals MC squared, a story of infertility, miscarriage, and love. And I wrote this book over the course of, can you hear me, Anne-Marie? I see you peeking.
Yep, I was just making sure the recording piece was happening.
Okay. This book took a really long time to bring out into the world because for a few reasons. I started writing it when I was finishing up my PhD, and that would have been in 2009. And that's when I had begun fertility treatments. And in 2009, nobody was talking about these things. I will say in 2026, there are books about this, people are talking about this, social media has changed this. But when I was going through this, it felt very lonely, and it felt like no one was speaking about this except whispering in corners. So I began just writing what I call islands, these little things to help me try to make sense of infertility and pregnancy loss. Uh, and so, as you all know, then when you're an academic, so I had a child on my tenure track. I'm a post-colonial scholar, gender studies scholar, and so academia is particular about what counts. I'm putting that in air quotes, counts and doesn't count. So I put this to the side a bit because I needed to get tenure and I wanted to get promoted. So when I got promoted to full, I was really committed to putting this book into the world. So I got really good at saying no to other things and choosing my own work and choosing the thing that I wanted to write, which was this book. So I'm going to read a few bits about it, and then in between maybe talk a little bit about where it came from. One of the blocks that I really had is because people have gotten so good about talking about miscarriage and talking about infertility, is I really just kept getting stuck on why, like why me, why this story, does it really matter? Um, and so this piece I wrote toward the end of the process, but it really helped unlock for me the ability to put this out into the world. So this island, I call them islands, these little chapters, is called So What? I tell my composition students that they must consider the question, so what, at the end of their work. Why does what you are saying matter? What do you want me to do now that you spent 10 pages convincing me of something? For a decade, So What blocked me from putting this book into the world. So what if that was hard? You have a daughter. So what if I miscarried? It feels like most women I know have after talking openly about it for a decade. So what? Ev is my so what? That's my daughter's name. I started this book because I needed to make sense of what I was going through, even though it feels so ordinary on the other side as a mom. I finished this book because I need her to know what we went through in order for things to feel so ordinary now. Ev, if you are reading this, all of it has been and will be for you. If you aren't Ev, I offer you my so what to validate you, anger you, help you understand your friend slash partner slash lover slash mother slash child. Take what you need, leave the rest for Ev. And so when I got to the point where I realized that I really just needed this book to be in the world for her, it really freed me up to be willing to put it out into the world. And I wasn't nervous about it. I really was getting stuck on the thing I would have told my students, like everybody's story matters, but teacher or physician heal thyself, teacher heal thyself. Yeah, I was really stuck on that as well. And then another thing that I think is fun about my book, there's funny stuff too in the infertility world, but is that I really played with form because the other element that I wanted to make sure of for the audience is I'm imagining these tender hearts who are in the midst of this really hard process on your body, but also emotionally of going through fertility treatments. And my friend read the book and she was like, you need to end with having your daughter. And I didn't feel good about that. I didn't feel like this should be following the classic rising action climax having daughter Dame Newmont, now I'm a mom, because I knew that if I had read that book and then it was like, but then it ended okay and now there's a baby, I probably would have thrown that book across the room. It would have infuriated me when I was going through this because there's a lot of jealousy when you're going through this of, why does this person have this and I don't? And I write a lot about that. But so what I did is really at the beginning of the book I have the epilogue. And so I put the end of the story at the front because I wanted the reader to know, especially that reader who is in the midst of this, that hey, there is a baby at the end of this journey. And if you can't be with that, I wanted the reader to know that in the beginning. And I will say, I have friends that have gone through this that have still not been able to read the book. And I will say, my husband has not been able to read the book. He reads parts of it, but it's hard for him. So I wanted to be really clear with the audience. So this epilogue, so this is right at the beginning of the book, is called Mother's Day. I sneak to the grocery store between teaching my Sunday morning yoga class and heading home to prepare Mother's Day dinner for both sides of the family. Later, Eveline, and there's footnotes, so footnote, a portmanteau of the names of our grandmothers, Lorraine Van Reed on my side, Evelyn Marion on the other. Other forms, Evie, Ev, incorrect form, Evelyn, what most people hear when we say her name. So later, Eveline will wear mayonnaise yolks through her hair from our first attempt to make deviled eggs. She and her cousin will hide in the tent, will swing and squeal, will sit together at their little picnic table and share their food. I will watch the two of them race, and my heart will push at my ribs just as her foot did inside of me 3 years before. Before the sun sets, I will tuck her in, lean in to kiss her cheek, and she will reach her long, thin arm up from the blankets so she can stroke my face one last time before we say goodbye to another day together. But at the grocery store checkout, none of this beauty matters. I organize the food on the conveyor, heaviest first, lightest last, so I can throw everything in my tattered canvas bags and hightail it home to begin what will be a mess of mayo and yolk and paprika. I smile to the cashier, one I recognize from frequenting the only store, tiny though it may be, in a small suburban town. I toss my wallet back in my bag when she looks at me. Have a nice Mother's Day if you are a mother. I blink, take a breath, though there is no air to breathe. My jaw clenches. I begin to protect myself. My fight or flight re-engages. I am myself 4, 5, 8 years ago. The self who hides from interactions with strangers on Mother's Day. The self who went to visit a friend the Mother's Day after my first miscarriage, who hid and ate Indian food in Boston suburb in hopes of avoiding the chiffon and lace of Mother's Day restaurant celebrations. I revert to the self who taught a yoga class while a heartbeatless baby lay still in her belly after a second miscarriage, clenching her muscles to make it through the hour without crying. In that moment, at the checkout, my body forgets that Ev exists. I become an animal protecting her own wounded body. I want to lash out at the cashier. She is older, kind. I chose her line because she is capable and friendly. She smiles. She means no harm, but she does. Even if the corporate office probably trained her to temper the greeting with, if you are a mother. The if cuts through my pelt and gets to the bone. If you are a mother. The weight of the word, the possibility in it, the word itself pregnant. If you are a mother, if you can get pregnant, if you can carry a baby, if you can keep that baby's heart beating, if you can keep both of you alive until she comes out. For a decade, if was my life, my world. I calculated, I planned, I strategized. If it doesn't work this time, then we will consider adoption. If I don't see a heartbeat at the ultrasound, then I can't go to work. If I go away, then I will have to give myself my shot. If I have another miscarriage, then I will stop hurting myself and quit treatments. Even though I am now a harried, hurrying mother trying to get home to her daughter, the cashier opens the slash so many have prodded with sticks over the decade. The woman at the party, where are your children? The comments from strangers, what are you waiting for? You aren't getting any younger. The people in the past years, when are you having another one? I gather myself. I gather my Mother's Day groceries. In the past, I would have been blinking back tears, but now in this checkout line, I am toughened. Years of protecting myself from others have made my pelt thick, quick to grow back. I come into the air and breathe deep and slow. I pack my car and drive home to prepare for the celebration of what I finally did, make Ev. So again, like I really wanted people to know that Ev exists, but that also there is still pain. And that one thing I really hope comes out of people reading this book is, it feels like such a throwaway question. Oh, do you have kids? And I don't ask that question. And if I could just get everybody to stop asking that question, I wait for somebody to maybe bring their children up because it's complicated. It's complicated for so many people. And so I wanted readers to know Ev was here, but I also wanted to know that even though she is, things were that pain was still there, especially when she was little. When she was really little, I remember someone asking me how I was, and I said, "Oh, I'm so beat. Like I'm just so tired because I had a newborn." And um and she looked at me and she said, "Well, you don't forget all that you went through to have her. You should be grateful." And I was like, I can hold gratitude and fatigue at the same time as if I had
Yeah.
forgotten everything that didn't happen. Like it was because I had been very public about this even before I had eventually had Ev. So I was just, and this is a person I love and care about, like as if I couldn't, as if now couldn't have any stress or anything now that I was a mother. So it's complicated, even though the kid is here. Now, my daughter is now 14. Um, so this feels distant in a way, which is also probably really good because I needed that distance to be able to write. There are some parts where I like to play with language in the book, um, thinking about how language fails us. So I'll read two parts about that. This is called pronouns. It's really short. It's only a paragraph. But a lot of what I do in the book is try to pick at how language is failing when we try to talk about here. I have some author's notes in the beginning, and one is about why I use the word baby and how I was concerned about people taking that word and using it in a way to go against things that I believe. So, I talk about how I use the word baby fast and loose, but let me be clear that I know that this isn't a baby per se, but that we don't have a word. Like I'm not going to write about a zygote or so I try to be really mindful about the words. So this is just a paragraph chapter called pronouns. I use her sometimes when I think about the baby. I sometimes think it, what a terrible pronoun, was a she. How can an unknown pronoun, it, something so vague, with no antecedent in this case, cause so much pain and heartbreak? What I have learned is that language is a complete failure surrounding the loss of a baby. What was it? How did it happen? When did it die? If we rely on gender to personalize and we never knew the gender, my baby is relegated to the pits of semantic disparity, a linguistic lacuna, just like the spot inside of me where it/she once lived. And then there's another section called Miss, MIS hyphen, um, talking, and this is about that prefix, and again about the language failing. So this is Miss. I am in limbo, waiting to know what is going to happen. It seems every day I need to talk myself down from the ledge. My stomach roils. In 1 second, I am convinced I will be holding my baby next Christmas. The next, sure, I will sit in the space of loss forever. And then in all caps, miscarriage is a terrifying word. Miss, as in mistake. Me in the French, not. Carriage, carriage, the things that should be so lovely in the park in the snow, the thing that carries others. But to miss hyphen carry, there is the sense of a mistake, misgiving, misread, miscarry, to do something wrong, incorrectly. I blame myself. Clearly, I have done something wrong, have done something to create this mistake. People tell me to go to this doctor and take that medicine. Garlic will help. I know the name of this acupuncturist who got my friend pregnant. Here's a doctor who can make it all better. If you can't let go of the stress, you won't get pregnant. Take this herb. Don't take that medicine. Take this instead. Don't eat this. You should eat more of that. The root of all of this advice, I am either not doing enough or I am doing too much. I am the only one at fault for there being no baby. Difficult to remember that my body is functioning the way it should be, that it knew that baby in there would not survive. There is no mistake to the miscarriages. My wise body performed at a primordial and optimum peak. Not a mistake. There was no mistake. Footnote. The language nerd in me wants to consider a new word, bone carriage. Noun, definition, a way that my body knew what it needed to do and did it, despite the brain's desire and the ego's wish to achieve something. An ultimate body over mind moment, almost meditative in its perfection and clean simplicity. My body read a code that scientists have spent millennia trying to unpack and decipher, that scientists will continue to work on for centuries. And my little body, so ordinary, was wiser than all of the centuries of scientific thought. It knew at such an early moment that it needed a decision to let go, even though every other part of the body's being fought for that baby. And then I will read, there's a lot about um, coincidence. I have another part about the word viable. So there's a lot of play with language because ultimately I'm an English professor. Um, a lot about poetry, but a lot about coincidence and about the universe, whatever that means. The cover uh, has all these animals because in the beginning, the publisher kept sending me these book covers that were like they had eggs on them and needles on them. And I was like, you need to stop sending me this like really scientific stuff. Like it already has a scientific title. Um, and I need you to stop. Like so there's an interaction with each of these animals that means something to me over the course of the 15 years. Uh, and just so I don't know if you can see that. There we go. So I have the tattoo on my arm. So the title, and it eventually the reader finds out. But I had the tattoo before the book. But E is my daughter, Eveline. My husband is Matt, and I'm Colleen. So when I realized that my family was this equation, I have the tattoo. My husband has the tattoo. He's a physics teacher, so people always assume that that's why. And then when I tell them, to me, it's like a line of poetry. Like this isn't mathematic. This is poetic to me. So there's a lot of just I wanted to get away from the science because that's what people always think about. So I think the last thing I'll read is here. It's at the end, and this section is called Epilogues 2011 and on. So now I'm signaling to the reader, like, for real, these are the epilogues of the book. So this one is called Mommy, and it's not terribly long. And it's accompanied by a picture of all the syringes. Now people, now people like announce babies and they use their syringes and they make hearts on social media. It's really interesting. This was just like we dumped them on I randomly took a picture of it and I'm really glad I did. So, mommy, Ev stays at my parents' house on days I teach at the university. I pass Dr. Schilling's office. She is the fertility doctor we've learned about earlier in the book. I pass Dr. Schilling's office en route to dropping off this little girl child that has come to stay. Ev is an early talker. I teach her to say, "Thank you, Dr. Schillings," when we drive by the brown brick medical building where I spent so many mornings. I'll just side note here. So if you don't know anybody that's gone through fertility treatments, or if you haven't, there's a lot of blood work. So you have to have blood work every day at certain points in your cycle. So before your work day, I had to figure out how to get to Allentown, which is about 30 minutes from here, and make sure I did all that blood work. So there's like this life that you have before the other life you have. So we drive by where I spent so many mornings. I look at the cars and say a silent prayer for those sitting inside with arms out for needles and bodies open for wanding, the ultrasounds I talked about earlier. Doctors taking so much from these women, women willing to give all of themselves for the chance to drive by as I'm doing, a vibrant child in the car seat behind me. Ev asks me what Dr. Schillings did. I tell her Dr. Schillings helped me make her. Ev pauses. She does not know the full story of how babies are made, but I have been clear with her that the way I made a baby differs from the way others make babies. She knows that Daddy and I needed help to make her. I am not ashamed. I am honest. I needed help. Ev looks out her window this spring morning, ready to say, "Thank you, Dr. Schillings." This morning, she adds a part. "Thank you, Dr. Schillings, for making mommy, for making mommy, for making me Ev's mother, for making a child out of blood and needles and heart and tears and pain and devastation and hope and optimism and patience and love." I think that's a perfect word to stop at. So I would love to chat with you